You guys are having such a good time that maybe we should just motion to dismiss.
There is food over there. I see
There's
it.
food, and we could just go straight out there. And then you can ask tough questions such as, I planted some questions with the audience. What are those?
What's today?
What is today? I don't know.
Wait,
Maybe what
that's
is-
the Roosevelt graduate right there who said, "What is today?"
Is it Saturday?
It's a great day.
Anyway, we are going to have a very brief presentations really about what we want to do. And then as soon as possible, get to Q&A because I'm sure you have more questions than probably we have answers. And we want to get to that and really have all your questions so that the ones we can answer, we can do right away. And then the others will find the answers as soon as possible and put it on the FAQ that we have. So welcome. Welcome. This is really the first joint event between Roosevelt University and Robert Morris University, a more formal event than our mixers that we have had. So welcome to our colleagues from Robert Morris. Raise your hands. Yeah. Okay. There was no entrance fee for today, but next time, who knows? And we have 4 topics to cover for you relatively briefly, and Maybelline and I will go back and forth between the two of us. But first also let me introduce my colleague, President Kruger from Robert Morris University.
Thank you.
So how many presidents does it take to make a presentation? We'll find out. We'll find out very soon. I also want to welcome the members of the Board of Trustees who are here, faculty trustees. If you guys want to stand up, thank you. All right. A few of our members are online. This is also being recorded, so it'll be available to all of our colleagues so we can listen to it. I also want to thank the members of the executive team from both universities who've been involved at first confidentially, but now publicly, with the integration of our 2 universities. So our leadership team, if you stand up and be recognized, please. Yeah. And of course, any hard questions, we will refer to them. You know, that's how it goes. There are 4 topics we would like to cover for you today. And those 4 topics are first, enrollment and retention. Okay. The next ones will be a surprise for you. All right. Enrollment and retention, obviously #1 issue for both our universities because we are tuition dependent, as you can imagine. And this was part of the reasons we brought the 2 universities together. So I'll cover ours, and Maybelline will cover her university. So enrollment for Roosevelt University this year. This fall, 4,071. And then our goal for next year is to be 4,210. That's about a 4.3% increase that we're looking at in all academic programs. So we will be emphasizing freshmen, emphasizing transfer students, and also emphasizing graduate programs as well. Okay? Next one. This fall, we had 305 freshman students. Transfers, 361, masters, 439, and doctoral students, 20 of them. Okay.
The color coding is significant, right? Did
Yes.
you do well? First of all, thank you, Roosevelt University, for your hospitality today. I think it speaks well for both of our universities that we have such strong representation here. And special thanks to the IT team for streaming this. I know we have 5 Board of Trustees members who are joining us via their home computer. And also it allows our various campuses, our Schaumburg campus of Roosevelt University, Elgin, Orland Park, Peoria, and Waukegan for Robert Morris to tune in as well. So thank you for your flexibility for allowing us to do that. Enrollment at Robert Morris University this fall, headcount is 1,692. I think it's important to note that 95% of our students are full-time, which is a key indicator not only in time to degree, but part of that value proposition for the students as well as Robert Morris University and our integration. Our goal for this time next year is an increase of about 6% to 1,800. And we based that on where we did see increases this past fall, which I'll review in just a minute. We had the opportunity to welcome 423 new freshmen to our locations the end of September. That was an increase over last fall for us of about 7%. Transfer students, we started 224 brand new transfer students at Robert Morris University, also an increase from last fall. And then our small master's degree offerings, we started 53 new students in those areas as well, which was also an increase. So we're very pleased with that increase and believe we can count on that to continue to a certain extent because of the plans that we put in place to get there this year.
All right. Just as importantly, and perhaps even more important, once the students sign up, we absolutely want to keep them and make sure they graduate on time and so forth. So for us, 73%. Last year was 74%, so we're right in that striking distance, and those numbers have gone up about 15% in the 2 years. The credit for that goes to all of you who helped the students, and especially the provost office. So Lois and her team working with everyone so that we can focus on retention of our students so that they can stay and then become sophomores and juniors and seniors and graduate on time.
Right. Robert Morris's freshman retention fall to fall was 50%. That was actually a 5 percentage point increase for us. But we are extremely eager through this integration to find out more about the success that Roosevelt has had in drastically improving that freshman to sophomore retention. We can do lots of things together, and we're eager to learn more. Critical to this integration, of course, will be continuing to work with every single student, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, or graduate school, in order to make sure that he or she sees clear pathways to that degree that they desire and help them see more and more opportunities.
Okay. All right. So now we need to look ahead from where we've been. And then the next topic looking ahead is enhanced opportunities.
This is so fun to talk about, right? And you know, through the more than a year, 2 years, but who's counting, that we've been having first, of course, confidential discussions and now very open discussions. This list has just gotten longer. And I have to say, it's a tribute to our students because they keep adding to this list with their questions, the opportunities that they are seeing that perhaps we weren't really even obvious to us yet. So just a few additional degree options. As an integrated university, we will continue to have stackable degrees more so than either of us does independently. Certificates, associate degrees, bachelor's degrees, master's, doctoral programs. That's right at the beginning, and more that can be built. Additional courses, of course, more students mean more sections. It also means the ability to allow our students to perhaps select a more advanced course that neither of us has been able to offer in the past, or stop over and pick up maybe a culinary class, right, that they've never been able to do before. Additional teaching modalities together, we will have daytime, evening, blended, online, weekend, and whatever the next generation, right, is going to need, we'll be better able to offer those to our students. And, you know, increase experiential education. The sky's the limit there. We are independently as universities doing quite a bit in that area in different ways. And so being able to learn from one another and really explode that where and how it makes sense. And naturally in all of these areas, we have tasked our task forces. Boy, that's an inappropriate use of that term, but with looking at what we can not only take that each of us is doing and continue to do better, but what types of new opportunities might be out there. Expanded extracurricular opportunities, I have to say, in my frequent visits now to the Roosevelt campuses, I have been asked more questions about football than anything else. Who knew? And Ali does have a football pin, just so you know,
Yes,
Robert Morris
I do.
football pin. But that's only really one of many opportunities. Roosevelt has some athletic opportunities that Robert Morris does not, and vice versa. In addition to athletics, things like marching band, jazz band, choir that Robert Morris has supported. A few others might just be, you know, hockey, cheer, dance. I could go on and on. And then very, very important, which probably should be the first, middle, and last, is expanded career network, because we're all about our students, right? And that's one of the fundamental things that is so obvious every time you step into a Roosevelt campus or a Robert Morris campus, is we're very student-centered. It's about helping students see the options they have, helping them find their path to that, and helping them be successful members of our society. So with this integration, we will have expanded the career network of our students 5 or 6 times over, with more alumni to interact with, more employers, more opportunities. Those are just a few. Very exciting. So let's hear next from some of our leadership team about their thoughts about this integration.
I am excited about it because it really will help students get through sooner with more possibilities. And I think that's ultimately our job, is to get them through successfully into a career. And for a lot of reasons, as I mentioned before, just having more sections in certain programs so that students have a better chance of fitting it into their schedule. For the RMU students, having online programs, that will be a real advance to their schedule. And so when I look at having more students, just having more students, it does benefit the ability for students to complete.
I'm really excited about the opportunity just to be a part of a new thing and being able to be part of a whole new institution, of seeing just a different direction and being around new colleagues, new students, while still having everybody that I've been working with for all of these years. So I'm really excited about just coming together as a whole to have what would be a new institution collectively.
I'm excited about the integration because it gives us an opportunity to revitalize the workforce. Both Roosevelt and Robert Morris, we have rich histories, and we have strong student bases, and our employees and faculty, they're dedicated to their work and to the student experience. So it's a great time for Roosevelt now.
I've been with the university for just over 30 years now, and when the opportunity was first presented and I learned about it, after just getting to know Roosevelt for just over a year now, a little bit more, it is exciting. You always get a little bittersweet about the fear of, oh, are we going to lose the legacy of Robert Morris? But I think there's actually some excitement there because the legacy is going to be preserved. It's just going to grow and expand. And I think that our universities are so similar in what we do that it is an exciting new chapter of what we're going to do. So change is a little scary at first. It gets messy in the middle, I think they say, but that saying is that it's glorious in the end, and I'm looking forward to that.
I'm excited about the integration with Robert Morris because of the potential that it will provide our students and their students. They are in the neighborhood, they're across the street, we're 200 steps away from each other, and we exist for essentially the same reasons. So being able to combine our operations through this initiative will really open pathways to their students that haven't existed before, and to our students because of the many programs they offer right now that we don't.
I'm really excited about this opportunity because the external forces in higher ed today are so demanding, and institutions such as Roosevelt and Robert Morris, as standalone opportunities, we're very, I'm not going to say limited, but we're very constricted by our ability to grow alone. So by combining forces, we'll have the opportunity of a bigger and better, larger university so that we could advance our missions respectively.
I'm really the most excited about the opportunity to be a part of something like this. I feel fortunate now to maybe have been a part of 2 once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. I had the opportunity to come here in 2009 and start an athletic department from scratch. Now I have the opportunity to be a part of 2 institutions coming together to create something amazing. This is not going to be something that's going to be unique in the future. And to say I was on a part of the forefront of really figuring out how you can integrate 2 institutions to create this transformational place for students, I really think is something I'll look back on in the future and be really proud that I was a part of.
I'm excited about adversity. A lot of great things come out of adversity. And so I look at the challenges that we face in this iteration of the university's existence. For example, we just got on the elevators the other day, and it was packed. We stayed in the hallway for about 5 minutes, I guess, waiting on an elevator. That's a good challenge to have. When I started back in 2002, I had to park at the IKEA parking lot when I went out to Schaumburg. That's a good problem or challenge to have. And so I'm excited about what we face in terms of becoming the university of the future. With this integration, more students, more opportunities, more programs, more community engagement. There's just so much at our fingertips, and I'm really excited about it. I look forward to tomorrow.
I don't know what these people are doing in this picture, but I like it. Miss Jordan, you're looking a little, I don't know, awestruck there. Oh, they're thinking about that messy middle. That's what it is, I think. So task forces. We've felt so fortunate to immediately after the announcement on October 2nd, we had over 200 people, over 100 from each of our universities, immediately say they'd love to be part of a task force. So at that time, I think it was 34 task forces. There's an extra one there now, and it'll probably grow from there as our needs continue to expand. And we have over 170 people represented on those task forces. Now, should you feel either disappointed because you weren't selected for a task force and or that you've dodged the bullet because you don't have to serve, neither is an appropriate response because we will need your assistance. We will be asking content experts to join those as we need them to, and or to have working groups for specific items underneath those task forces. So really looking forward to that. And you know, when we say to you we're not sure of some things, that is the truth because we need our students, our faculty and staff to weigh in on desires and what's possible and maybe what isn't possible to recommend those to leadership to make the final decisions.
Okay, well, you know, you heard just a little bit about enrollment and retention and also the integration of the 2 universities and task forces. So now we have Higher Learning Commission, our accrediting body, the main accrediting body for both our universities coming in. Typically they come in every 5 years or so. They look at the quality of the programs and they allow us to have accreditation. Well, this time they're coming in to do their due diligence on this integration. And the overriding question for them is, what would be the resulting university? What would it look like? And how would it be ready for the future so that it remains an accredited body? Right. And the quality of students' experience, faculty, staff improves and increases every year. So the team that will be visiting us next Thursday and Friday, 3 HLC vice presidents will be with them, okay, as part of the team, and 2 peer reviewers from other universities. And What they have done is they have sent us a tentative schedule that you will have very soon that talks about these are the groups and individuals that we would like to visit with. At certain times, it's with the whole team. Then they break off and have individual meetings with 2 members and 3 members and so forth, and then on respective campuses as well. Most of the meetings will be on the first day on this campus, then various meetings will be on a Robert Morris campus, and then they finish sometimes around 2 p.m. on next Friday. So that's how they have decided to break out the various groups, from Senate leaders to student groups to athletes, so forth and so on, faculty and staff. So we've had input and about 2%, 5% of that schedule. So
Right.
if for some reason they are not meeting with you and haven't identified you, we didn't have much to do with that. But you will see that you will have ample time in the various forums, and there are some open forums, at least one, that you can attend, and they'll be asking similar questions. How much do you know about this integration? How would it improve the quality of the education of the students, as well as how well informed are the faculty and staff about this integration? So, and nothing moves forward until the HLC board, which meets sometime in the spring, says so. That's the decision. Once we have that decision, then it becomes real. Okay? Until now, it's hypothetical. Okay? Every sentence we say pending approval by HLC and other governing bodies. So as soon as we have the letter of approval from HLC, then Department of Education will, based on that, approve financial aid for the students, and then Illinois Board of Higher Education, and then a whole host of accrediting bodies of the various academic programs that we have will be notified, but it's all dependent on HLC. So that's partly to say, please participate as much as you can in these meetings and talk about and answer the questions regarding this integration. Now, as you can see, Maybelline and I are really, really excited about this partnership. We started talking about a year ago when she bought me breakfast, and that did it. Okay?
That's all it took.
That did it, you know, being a cheap date, you know, all that. But then we begin to trust each other and work on this partnership, because increasingly it made sense for us to bring our forces together. And you heard some of the leadership teams that it's very, very hard to grow organically in the market we're in. So the partnership gives us significant presence in Chicago and surrounding areas. And we do have plans to then allow this circle to grow, not only 75% radius of where we are, but keep growing that circle to go more national, more international programs, and a host of other things that all of our teams are working on. One other thing I'll mention to you is, you know, the feedback already from the teams have been, at the task forces, has been very, very positive. So all of you who are on task forces, raise your hands. All right, this is a good time to get a raise for everyone. All right. Well, thank you so much, first of all, doing that. The other thing is that we've been cautioned on not being too specific about the answers that we give in these kind of sessions, mainly because the task forces are working on the various recommendations. Because you ask a question, and either I or Maybelline will say, well, this is what we're thinking about. Well, that will divert the attention of the task force towards certain recommendations, rather than allowing all of you to bring your best thinking and your innovation to the task forces. So if we are going to be vague just a little bit, please be patient with us. I think that allows the task forces to have higher quality output as we go forward. Okay? Anything else before we get to Q&A? ma'am?
As usual, you said it all very well.
Okay.
I think that's important. I thought we were going to have to resuscitate the CFO of Roosevelt there when you mentioned the raise next to the HR person, and so I don't know. No, well stated. And yeah, the feedback. Just in the last 3 weeks, it's been very affirming to hear your questions as well as your concerns. You're asking the right things, and they're important things, and they're all coming from wanting to make sure that our missions are aligned and moving forward together, and that's just an awesome place to be.
Okay. And then we have Schaumburg Open House on November 8th. So Robert Morris Athletic Facilities Tour will take place that day, mainly Arlington Heights that we'll visit. And then we'll go to Schaumburg and visit with faculty and staff, respective universities. So you're invited to join us there and meet and greet for lunch on that campus. And parking is free.
At both places.
Both places.
I have been warned by our athletic director, who's also our head football coach, that he welcomes you to visit the football building and the football field where our team will be practicing for a game the next day. But he also warned me to warn you that it's smelly in the locker rooms. Like, we wouldn't expect that from 120 football players. But yes, it'd be great to show you that facility.
Okay.
And I know we're looking forward to seeing all of you at Schaumburg.
All right. So we do have some microphones, partly because of the benefit of the people who are remotely listening. If you step up to the microphones, that would really help. So,
And I think Vanessa is taking questions from the online group, right?
okay, all right.
So we have about 140 people attending online through YouTube or Zoom. And Brandy Williams from RMU kicks off the first two questions. How will the integration affect RMU students that are drawn to the 10-week quarters? And then the second question is the 2019-2020 school year the last year the 5 quarters will be offered to students?
That's not a yes or no question, so I appreciate that. Brandy, great question. So the fact that Roosevelt is on a semester system and Robert Morris is on, Ali, this is your favorite topic, 5 10-week quarters, which kind of doesn't make any sense when you think about it that way, is something we've been looking at from the beginning. Stop.
Is it a dollar bill
Stop it.
with 5 quarters?
What?
Just asking.
You said you were a cheap date, and now you're haggling with So that's one of the things we've been looking at for some time, and some of our task forces are continuing that work. What we know that we want is to retain time to degree, especially for those associate degree short-term programs. So that is paramount, regardless of what the future calendar might look like, giving students the option of completing very quickly and getting into that world of work as fast as possible. So we're looking, and our task forces are as well, at what that might be. There are some nuances underneath a semester system that might make sense, that will retain that time to degree and give students additional options. So there's not a clear answer for that as yet, other than, yes, the plan is over the next 6 months, a year, maybe longer, to sync our calendars, because we will be, provided this is approved by HLC, see how I got that in there? We will need to sync our calendar start dates and stop dates to a great extent to give our students more flexibility. Exactly how that's done will remain to be seen, but Brandy will keep you and the rest of the students informed as we make progress.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I would like to get some specifics on this dynamic deal. I understand we are acquiring Robert Morris. What is the price we're paying? How much does that price include hard costs versus soft costs? And also, I noticed that looking at the $990 for Robert Morris, you're paying close to $2 million for athletic expenses. I mean, how much are you projecting that kind of expense? Not that we're curious about raises, but in terms of overloads. Thank you.
I'm sorry, the term overloads, can you explain to me what you mean by that?
The faculty here has volunteered, or been told to volunteer, to teach extra courses.
Oh, I see.
And we've been told that the budget would be balanced in 3 years. Now it seems like 8 years. I'm just wondering how we're ever going to get to a balanced budget, because there's so many economic questions I understand you're not happy to share, but I'm just trying to understand
Yeah.
how the numbers work.
Yeah.
Let me-
I'll say,
Let
I'll
me-
say a few, and then I'll pass it over to President Ali, of course. I was just talking with a group of our students earlier today and started with, it's not that everything is about the numbers, but if the numbers don't work, nothing else matters. So naturally, that was the first discussion that we had very quickly. Together, does this decrease the time to prosperity, or does it increase it? That was an imperative at the very beginning. And that was affirmative, or we wouldn't be sitting here today. It helps the situation, not hurts it.
Yeah, and you're asking a good question. First of all, we can't be specific about the acquisition price, mainly because it's still in flux, and it's a confidential part of this process, has to go through HLC, and then we can make it public. Our boards, respective boards of both universities, have looked at those numbers. Let's back off. The moment Maybelline and I started talking about this, we said, okay, it seems like it would make sense to bring our two universities together. But first, it has to make academic sense, and secondly, financial sense. And those are our two goals in this process: academically stronger university, resulting university, and financially. So academic answer was, well, we have about 40% overlap, and the students will benefit from the 60%, both sets of students. At least initially that makes sense until we bring the faculty together and the staff and the students, so the task forces can work on that and see we can see the benefit of that. But a critical question was the finances. And very quickly we put the balance sheets and income statements of the two universities together, made some projections, and it made a lot of sense to continue our discussion. So we continued that, and then in the last board meeting for the Board of Trustees, both of our respective universities, we presented our projections based on the integration of the finances of two universities with various scenarios, as you can imagine. Okay, realistic case, not so realistic case, and there's a negative side, and what about very negative? Something goes wrong, et cetera, et cetera. And, Professor, I don't know where you heard the number. Everywhere I have said this, including in Senate notes, it says we will have a balanced budget, the resulting Roosevelt University, after our integration within a year. That's 365 days from the time that the two universities integrate after HLC comes in. So I don't know, honestly, where you got 8 years from now?
No, I was
So-
sorry I didn't explain.
So I misunderstood your question. All right.
3 years ago that it would be 3 years. Then when we negotiated our debt, that it would take 5 years. That's where.
No, again, no, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
You are misquoting me again?
No,
allow me to finish. No, I'll let you finish, you allow me to finish. You just said publicly 5 years, we went from 3 years to 5 years. When we presented the Stronger Roosevelt plan, we said we will achieve balanced budget within 3 years. Then as enrollments came in, and I came to the Senate in front of all of you and said, now we are actually saving another $24 million in cost because of the refinancing. At the end of 2021, we will have a balanced budget. So now, after this integration, I'm going public and saying, if this integration works, and it's an if this integration works, we will have a balanced budget within 365 days. So 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, I don't know where you got those information, but it's 2 years, 1 year, and now within a year, we should have a balanced budget. And why would we need a balanced budget? We don't want to be deficit spending. Like all of you in your home finances, credit card bills come due. We want to make sure that we have a surplus in our budget so that we can invest in all of your ambitions, in the faculty research, in the student services, in all the new academic programs and services that you're dreaming right now in the 35 task forces. So that's what we're predicting, and that due diligence was done by both boards of trustees and unanimously board members who understand finance and accounting and academics voted on that. So, but I can't make the exact numbers public because we're under gag order until HLC does their due diligence.
Thank you.
Yep, okay. Other questions?
Me. Hi,
Yeah.
Heather Dolmage.
Heather.
I'm a sociologist here at Roosevelt. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So I have a question that's a little bit specific, and it may get flushed out in the different task forces, but it's a larger question of how this is all going to get integrated. So we don't have football, and the reason we don't is because when we went through the process of introducing sports, it was recognized that there's layers of problems with that particular sport, not least of which is it's exclusionary to 52% of the population. So, and more actually, depending on how we're going to break all that down. So there's that. And then there is the issue of ACT scores, right? And then there's the really wonderful issue of Roosevelt University for a very long time has not done well in serving black male students. And it seems like Robert Morris may be doing a better job of that. And so there's a real opportunity for Roosevelt University. You see, there's like all of these threads that cross gender and race and economics. Like, in what way is football upright at Robert Morris? What will those costs be? And then at whose expense? Is that proper English? At whose expense? So I'm just wondering how that layer of integration is being thought about.
Okay. All right.
Well,
Football.
I told you, football's a great topic. But I think your question was much more than that, which is appreciated. I will tell you that, and at the risk of sharing information you likely already know, at Robert Morris, 50% of we have 50% females, 50% males in our campuses. Depending on the day, it's 51-49. It kind of switches back and forth. So naturally, being an inclusive university and urban university career focused, diversity in every way, shape, and form is very important to us. It's mission central. So that certainly is important in the larger university context. I think a couple things, and I just have to share this because it seemed unusual to me as well. I was talking with the president of another small private not-for-profit who is starting football next year, who told me they have a female offensive line person coming in from Europe, which I've heard of female kickers before, but I thought that was really interesting. But that's just kind of an aside. Those issues are important. We naturally, at this point, are not looking at that specific level because we are integrating our universities in totality, looking at creating opportunities. Football, just like an academic program, all of those extracurricular or curricular opportunities for students are looked at every year in terms of what is it bringing to the university, what are the outcomes, is it paying for itself, if it isn't, is there a greater good going on, and the university evaluates that. And I don't think football or volleyball or softball or baseball would be any different in the future.
Okay. Professor Dolmage, I will add to this that sports play a big deal in recruiting the students, and without saying a specific one like football, the job of our coaches is significantly easier when they find that athlete who's aspiring to be in college, and they may not be at the NCAA 1 level, but there are multiple other levels. And I think Robert Morris has done a terrific job of attracting the students who want to be student athletes. Okay. And that's what has allowed them to recruit these students for the various sports. And as we've been going around and talking to Robert Morris students, they were really excited about the fact, for example, one male hockey player,
yeah.
was saying, great, now I can also play golf at Roosevelt because you have a golf team. So from students and from their own health issues and involvement and retention as well, because they immediately are part of the team, therefore to socialize together, that helps. The other part is, you're right, you have more diverse students regarding African American and also Latinx students. And that would also make the resulting Roosevelt University almost instantly a Hispanic serving institution, for instance, that allows us, we're right at 224.9.
No, this fall we passed over the 25% mark, so we're about 25.5 or 6.
Okay, so those were 3 other students that added since last time you and I talked. But Joe is precise, he's absolutely correct. But again, that allows us now to attract grants
Right.
to serve those students and
Right.
many others that you want to serve. So from all those perspectives, athletics is a profitable part of the budget of Robert Morris and brings in revenues because there are students who are attached to these programs who come in. So irrespective of the myth of, well, athletics costs money and we can always spend that money on other things, yes, but then those, in your case, 700 students may not be here if that was the case, and it would be a very different university for us as well. Talking to Mike Cassidy, he almost doesn't worry about roughly 200 athletes that we have. He said, that's a coach's job to attract those students to us. Now we go recruit the other students.
And I think, looking though, our provost every fall looks at retention by athletic opportunity, by EFC, like in 12 different ways, right? And extracurricular activities is one, and that retention is higher than students who aren't involved. We know that involvement, whether it's singing in the choir or being in a student organization or being on a team, makes a difference, at least it has. But of course, we need to continue to look at everything that we do to continue to be healthy universities, right?
Those are great questions. Okay. Elizabeth.
Good afternoon. I know I could read this, but I'd rather hear you speak about it. And that is how the missions of the 2 institutions relate. I know there's a task force about that, so you might need to be general, but I just really enjoy hearing how you both see that in terms of this being a really good fit.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
think the mission of Resulting University should be that we'll be a for-profit corporation. This is the time to say boo.
This is how you get misquoted. This is how it starts.
No, from our perspective, absolutely, our mission will not change. Social justice is what we do. It is in the fabric of the organization, goes back to the founding of this organization. And really, I'll just mention this anecdote, and then I let Maybelline talk as well regarding the mission from Robert Morris, is, our colleague, Lynn Weiner, just wrote this wonderful article that I mentioned to you in the Chicago History Magazine about the founding of our university. And I really encourage you, we have ordered some copies so that will be available. It is really incumbent upon all of us to read that, because the courage of hundreds of faculty, hundreds of students, and the administration to walk out when the board attempted to discriminate against African American students, against Jewish students, against women, when that kind of discrimination was going on in Chicago, in many other universities, and in our nation, is really a courage of conviction. We certainly don't want to lose that. And in fact, we want to affirm it. And to me, this is another milestone.
Right.
Okay? We've had many milestones, but this is a significant milestone to bring another university who absolutely believes in its fabrics in the social justice and equity that we believe in. So let me stop there, Maybelline.
Thank you. As usual, you say it so well. I think one of the fundamental beauties, if you will, of this possible integration is the similarity, yet not duplication. Our missions are similar, yet different. Social justice, social equity, if you will. So one is a subcomponent of the other. So if we were exactly the same, one of us shouldn't be alive today, right? But the fact that we are similar, inclusive in nature with students and people in general, bringing those together, our strengths together, just is really going to make it work, you know, because it's part of the fabric of who we each are and why we choose to either attend college or work at Roosevelt and Robert Morris.
Yeah, and you know, to me, you know, and maybe Lena and I have talked about this as well. The moment our admission folks team says a student has been admitted, okay, doesn't matter which of our programs, that student has been admitted, that means that student met our criteria for admission set by everybody, and we agree on that. We have to do, collective we, all of you are sitting around this room and listening online and so forth. It is our collective jobs to make that person, she, in our case is majority women, succeed. That means, one, stay here, be part of a team, be part of res halls, get involved, be in our classrooms, be active, be an RA, so forth and so on, through her academics and extracurricular activities and involvement in sports and so forth, and in the classrooms, advising from the faculty, from our staff, careers, and then we help that person land, either go to a graduate school or land a great career. And when she is successful, we know we are all successful. The success of every university you look at is not what happens while they're here, is what they learn from here and then transfer it outside, and that person is successful. Then suddenly you have thousands and thousands of ambassadors who will then lift the university in various different ways. So to me, education is very personal. Is each of you and all of you collectively surrounding each student and helping her or him to succeed. And, and I know we do that already, so that will continue. Since there are no other questions, no. Other questions?
Could you talk about shared governance in terms of the two universities? I'm curious some of the things, practices in Robert Morris in terms of shared governance.
Okay. All right.
Sure. I'm tempted to turn it over to our faculty at this point. That would be truly shared governance, right? If I said, faculty, tell us about shared governance. But of course, I won't quite do that. We have an entity called our Academic Council, which is majority faculty, some administration as well. And that council meets, whether they like it or not, monthly or something like that, quarterly. So on a standing calendar. And the items that go to the council are really anything that's important to the faculty, but in particular, recommendations and approvals for new programs, significant changes to programs. I would say they're rather traditional type things. And we have, 30 people on Academic Council, something like that. Again, majority faculty representing every school, adjunct seats. And in fact, our president of our Academic Council is an adjunct during this term because he wanted to be, ran for office and won that office. And as the president, I'm not a voting member, but of course, recommendations come through the administration to my office when appropriate. It's a very active faculty culture at Robert Morris.
Okay. And then, David, through a transition period, obviously, we have a task force of faculty working on that to make sure when the Experiential College becomes part of Roosevelt University, Robert Morris Experiential College, then everybody and every faculty will be under the guidelines of Roosevelt Handbook and so forth. So, but we do need a transition period. So we'll be working on that. You will all be working on that, okay, on shared governance.
There's a question over there.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to know how would tuition look for our current and future students, and if this transition will rely mostly on the income of our tuition, or our students will actually have more opportunities to access scholarships and grants.
I'll let you take that one because that's
No.
a fun, easy answer. It's actually the last, and this was mentioned, I think by Provost Becker in her statement on the video. You know, when you have more students, that creates more opportunities, and there are certain natural, eventually scalable opportunities, right? So the more students we bring together, there could be then less of an increase in what we need each student to bring to the table. You know, it doesn't mean, of course, tuitions go up, right? But of course, we also want to be very clear to say we each have our tuitions posted for the current year and next year. You know, so those will be honored. But again, bringing together a larger group of faculty, staff, and students, we would expect to see increased opportunities for grants, external scholarships, again, bringing our collective communities together. Exactly what that'll look like, it'll take time to tell, but it should be good, right?
Yeah, and are you a Roosevelt student or RMU student?
I'm a proud alumna and a current staff member here at Roosevelt University, and I just wanted to make sure that with this transition and expansion, our students can come to the school and stay. I feel like from a student perspective, the main issue across all institutions, but especially here at Roosevelt, it has been the increase of tuition and the limited access to scholarships or grants. So that's why I just wanted to ask.
No, that's fair. Just so that everybody knows, we've raised our tuition about 1.5% to 2% a year the past 3 years or so, okay? On average. So it's relatively modest.
Much less than the national average.
Much less than the national average. And, of course, we have the rankings of all of our competitors, and we've been around the 30th on that list. Not the highest, not the lowest, but within the 30th range. And I know Joe Regan is going to say, no, we were 31st. Right, Joe?
Look, he is.
Joe would like to join us here. But he is correct, because our trustees look at those and look how we move compared to others. But let me, I think more importantly, and again, Maybelline and I share in this. We, meaning private universities, private nonprofit universities across the nation, priced ourselves out of the middle class market. Okay? We usually do have enough financial support, okay, for the lower income families to send 1 or 2 students to us. We get to the middle class, it becomes much harder because family contribution has to be higher. And then with 1 student from a family, okay, they make the sacrifices. When it gets to the 2nd and the 3rd student, it becomes absolutely impossible to send your sons and daughters to a private university. And then, okay, there are other choices out there, but then some of them are businesses called, for-profit university. There are businesses, we know what they do. Okay, to me, it's not a university the way we know it, and so forth. So overall philosophy for all of us on the administration is to keep our tuition as low as possible and make sure it doesn't move up. Okay, now we jokingly say tuition always goes up, but we used to say the housing prices always go up, and we saw what happened. All right, we don't want to get there. So my commitment is working Maybelline with everybody on the leadership team, keep our tuition as low as possible, meaning relatively flat, while on the other side, we work exactly to the second part of your question in terms of scholarships raised, the fundraising part, and so forth, which is We've been helped recently because of the market. Increases in the market increases the value of our endowment. Therefore, more scholarships will be available to the students. The gift that we received 2 years ago, $25 million in scholarship money, added to the endowment, okay, it's $1.5 million, almost $1.5 million of interest income that we have added straight to the bottom line of scholarships available for our students. So we'll be working on that side as well. The other one I want to mention to you is we will work together to have also some lower priced programs available to a certain segment of students who want to work while going to college. So that's all I'm willing to say at this moment. Okay? So stay tuned on that one. Again, because we think tuition is high enough, okay, for middle class families, and we want them to be able to afford to send their sons and daughters here. We are about first generation college students and making sure they succeed. So that's my philosophy on that. Anything you want?
I'm just looking at the faces of the Robert Morris Financial Services team here, and I think they were listening to you quite intently. Awesome, right? Yeah. More to come. We're excited.
All right. Yes. Nancy.
What kind of consideration is being thought of for physical space? Like, is dining services going to have to be altered or changed, or, you know, or even athletic spots? And then just Roosevelt may have to have a new little tagline that instead of there's an app for that, we have a task force for that.
I like that. Yeah, you know, space is an ongoing item that is being looked at, but there's some really good work that's been happening already, and will continue to be done regarding who has space where. It's safe to say that although sometimes it doesn't feel this way, each of our universities has underutilized space. Perhaps it's used some, but not all the time. So how does that fit together? So we have our staffs looking at mapping that out for us to determine, again, where and when. And that also informs the modality issue, right? We have the luxury of space, so we tend to use it. But do our students really prefer different modalities that perhaps take different kinds of space and or less space? And how can we respond to that? So absolutely, that's an ongoing concern, and it will be a moving target as our students' needs and wants change as well. But we're convinced, even in the fairly early stage, that it's going to work out. It means people might need to be flexible, at least short term, but there's some really cool solutions out there. And give us, more than anything, an opportunity to better utilize what we already have.
And, you know, just having Robert Morris students in our building because of the res halls, as you know, the athletes and others have occupied 3 floors of our res halls. You know, I think that's what Michael Ford was so excited about, waiting for the elevator that long.
And some of them are really big dudes in the elevator.
And if we leave it to him, he will shut down 3 out of the 4 elevators just so that there's traffic, Michael, right? No, but we're looking at space very carefully, mainly to utilize it, because the efficient use of space is a resource that we don't want to waste. And that includes Schaumburg campus, so making sure Schaumburg is full, and we get to a problem of not having enough parking space in Schaumburg, which used to be the case. We want to get there again.
Woodfield Mall has a lot of parking spaces, I'm just saying. And I know you can walk from one to the other.
Right.
So this next question is from a Roosevelt University professor. It's Professor Bucola. And she asks, as the task forces do their work, will there be some possibility, even if not for next academic year, perhaps in subsequent ones, of incorporating Robert Morris faculty who are willing and able into the programs at the Chicago campus in which they have expertise?
Yeah. The short and the long answer of that is absolutely yes. You know, initially, obviously, those faculty are teaching classes for the 1,700 Robert Morris students.
Right.
But as you get to know your colleagues, yes, there will be those opportunities to cross-teach and collaborate and hopefully design new academic programs as well. Yes.
From someone else from one of the two campuses, or call it universities, what is the plan for how we're going to stay on top of maintaining our facilities? We want to make sure that the influx of students is planned and prepared for before they actually come to campus.
Okay. Well, we're shutting down some elevators for Michael saying.
Again, this is how you're misquoted.
All right. No, that is a very good question, mainly because we've had a budget deficit. We haven't been able to spend as much money as we should have on maintenance and repair of our facilities. Well, we've been lucky because of the Wabash building and the Goodman Center being brand new buildings that they haven't had as much maintenance as older buildings. But this magnificent auditorium building obviously has more and more needs year in, year out. So, going back to the first question, as soon as we have a balanced budget, which should be coming, we will be able to allocate more resources to repair and maintenance of our facilities, and also get ready in advance of the students showing up, okay, in the respective facilities and so forth. So at this moment, that's where we are. We just have to wait and make sure we implement this integration as well as we can. And if it succeeds, and I know it will, then we'll get to, okay, what are we going to do with the additional resources? So we're planning on that right now. So stay tuned. Okay. And honestly, yesterday, going back to Michael, because I give him a hard time, but you have to understand, he was sitting very, very carefully going the Schaumburg campus and what will be where and so forth. So he's spending a significant amount of his time and attention to make sure it's done well. So I think he deserves a hand.
Okay, I have another question from Robert Morris, Cindy Bird. She's Professor Emeritus. Good afternoon. My question is, which task force is addressing branch campuses? It has been challenging to determine this from the task force descriptions.
I think I hired Cindy some years ago. I know Cindy quite well, so thanks for the question. She's been a long-time business professor, particularly at our Peoria location. It is awesome. While we don't have a specific task force for locations, we do have task forces around curriculum and those types of things. So again, we make, at Robert Morris, Roosevelt does too, decisions every year based on student enrollment about changing, adding, dropping, moving locations and our programs, and that will continue. So I think it is actually good news that there's not a task force that we're saying make these decisions about locations. It is really an enrollment-driven and an outcome-driven opportunity for both of our universities, and will continue to be so coming together. What we know is that moving forward is that we are committed to continuing to offer opportunities for students and increasing those opportunities, not decreasing those. That includes multiple locations, modalities, programs, and those types of things. Peoria had a great freshman fall start this year. For Robert Morris, they were up significantly, and so the trend there looks quite good.
Okay. And to support that, our colleagues from Robert Morris, as part of their regular registration for this quarter that just started, they've been asking the question that from the students, these are all the campuses, respective campuses of both universities. Where would you like to take classes? Name your top 3. So in a way, we're allowing your students to vote with their feet. Mm-hmm. And as soon as we get the data, then make some decisions about where the programs will be offered and how, and
Yep.
so forth.
Yeah. And, you know, having individual conversations with many of you who are in the room and some who are not here today, but I've seen in other settings, there's some interest in, on behalf of both of our faculty and staff, perhaps taking a Robert Morris current program to the Schaumburg campus, certainly, that might thrive at that physical location. And then also some Roosevelt programs to perhaps one of our locations where Roosevelt hasn't had a presence in the past. So there's some opportunity there. So more to come. I think some of that will come through that curriculum group as well.
Okay. David?
Thanks. Are there models of mergers like this that you've looked at that have been really successful? There must have been inspiration. And are
We're
you
both laughing.
Are you
Yeah.
are you looking? Do you bring those people in, or as part of the process? I'm just curious about some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Let's talk a little bit about the changing nature of our, I don't want to say industry, it's a bad word for it, but, you know, university structures across the nation. For-profits are failing big time. Some of it is pressure from the government, and also the students not being able to find the careers and the positions they aspire to, etc. So the burden is on state universities and, of course, privates like us, nonprofit. And state universities, through the past recession, their funding has gone down significantly across the nation, and they've been decimated. And you have probably heard about various ones here and there. For private universities, nonprofits, now there's a pressure of, okay, especially in the Midwest and the Northeast, there have been declining student enrollment, graduating from high schools, etc. So we need to consolidate. So as we go to various conferences, have lunch and dinners and other things with our colleagues, almost invariably the discussion comes up. Can you think of a model of two who got together and did it well, etc.? And in fact, if you recall, David, in the last forum that we have for faculty here, was it Professor Ziliak had asked that question, and then it was either him or somebody else sent me examples of several. But, you know, that's been over a decade or so, and things change almost instantly. What we tried to do from the first day was, one, this is a friendly integration. There's no hostility involved. There's no takeover involved, so forth. And can we do it in a way that can become a model for everybody else? Okay? And even when we first brought this up with our HLC colleagues, the vice presidents who deal with us, was, you know, give us your advice. Does this make sense?
Right.
We're right across from each other. Our missions are similar. Our students are very similar. And we have 40% overlapping programs. So that's a 60% gain right there on academic programs. Financially, we think we can make it work. And invariably, the response was, wow, okay, seems like it will. Now, at the end, we don't know what they will say, but, you know, it depends to all of us to convince them accordingly. Right. But it made sense to us. So honestly, if there are 100 good examples out there or 0 examples, we are committed to making it work on the one side. But on the other practical side of it, the task forces are the result of expertise from the consultants that we have brought in. Okay? Kudos on that goes to Niraj. Where's Niraj? Would you stand up, please?
Yay, Niraj. Yay.
Okay. He brought in consultants and worked with our leadership team to lay out the structure that you see in terms of, it's a project, it has deadlines. How do we get from point A to point B? But do it in a collaborative way that everybody succeeds and so forth. And so he created more work for all of you. So I don't know if you want to clap again for that, but you know. So we have been advised through the process. And one of the consultants initially said 70 task forces make sense. Okay, I said, wow, okay, we're relatively small private university, so 35 is what we're counting on at this moment. But it depends on the work that we all do. My guess is some will finish their work, and then some additional ones will be added as we go forward. But I am committed, our team is committed, I know you are committed to making sure this succeeds as integration of two universities. Okay.
This is my soapbox. I'm going to get up and stand on it. This is an interesting topic because our CFO, who's sitting over there somewhere, I saw you, Arlene, said to me the other day something like this. What did you say, Arlene? If you've seen one higher ed merger or acquisition, you've seen one higher ed merger or acquisition. I think there are a lot of reasons for that. And I think it's important for us to collectively remember what we have going for us that perhaps many who even try to get to this stage don't. That is the similarity yet differences of our missions. The proximity, who has that? A proximity of two private, not-for-profit inclusive universities being 260 Maybelline steps door to door, which means 180 for Ali, right? So we have so many things that are working to our advantage. And let's be real here. To get to this point, each university has had to cut through, just naturally, this is personal to people. We have very committed boards and very committed leadership, and we're very committed to our institutions. I'm proud of us, you know. There are some institutions who've tried to get this far who couldn't get past, perhaps, my opinion, the egos of their presidents or the egos of their boards or, you know, large funders who really weren't seeing the value. And so I think there are all of those things. That's one reason I think you're not seeing a lot of this. As much as the accrediting bodies and the Department of Ed say we should be seeing this all the time, they're not. And that's a mistake. We're going to see it more. I will tell you this. I've had more invitations to dinner from other college presidents in the last 3 weeks than I've had in 5 years. And you probably have too. I mean, it's amazing. They all want to know. I don't think they want to know, how do you do it? How did you get there? How did you get to this stage?
Started with free breakfast. So I will mention this partly because you haven't seen, I mean, in your groups and colleagues and email and so forth, you've had some reactions from your counterparts within your university. But what has come to my desk and my attention from the various groups of this university, faculty, staff, students, administration, has been overwhelmingly positive reaction from alumni, from colleagues across the nation. I would say 98%, 99%, very, very positive reaction. Now, at the same time, everybody says, but how are you going to work this thing out? How are you going to work that one out? You know, so forth and so on. And we can all think of 5 issues that will come up, speed bumps, real speed bumps, et cetera, that we have to resolve. But again, our commitment is we have very, very smart people in universities. We are super smart, right? Correct? With the exception of me, everybody is really smart. So why can't we find solutions rather than constantly say, well, it's a barrier? I mean, the first discussion, your quarter system, 5 quarters.
Stop.
Did I mention that?
Yes, and?
Our semester. So this is going to be really too hard to integrate our 2 universities.
Yep.
No, end of discussion. Okay. Yet, once we had goodwill and started with a mission discussion, and what's good for the students and what's for the future, then the conversation came to, oh, maybe we can solve that.
Right.
All right. And remember, for us, could be the 16-week semester makes sense. I really want the faculty here and our colleagues to look at, is it 16 weeks? Should it be 8 weeks and 16 weeks? Because if we do that, then the Robert Morris schedule could go in, and students can take 16-week classes simultaneously with 8-week classes. So I take 2 of this type and 1 of the other type, if I can manage it. And I've been in universities that people did that. So again, more options for the students. So overwhelmingly positive response. And really, kudos to all of you for saying, yes, I'm willing to change.
You know what it is, Ali? It is that student-centered piece of each of our universities. That if we begin and end everything with what makes the most sense for students and to help them get to their end goal, whatever that goal is, then we're on the same page from the beginning.
Yeah.
And you know, the most frequent question I get right now at Robert Morris is, what do you need me to do? Tell me what you need me to do and I'll do it. And is continue to work with our students to help them achieve their goals. That's what you do well, and that's what we need you to continue to do.
Yeah. Yes.
So what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of things in flux, which we would expect. And so it brings me to the question of, do we feel that this Robert Morris Experiential College will also be something that's in flux? And is it something that we think will be changed over time? Or is that something that we think will be something that will be there for a long time?
As an entity, you mean?
Yes, as an entity.
Well, I think, you know, everything is constantly evolving. That has nothing to do with the Robert Morris Experiential College, but everything to do with people and relationships and businesses and Roosevelt University too, right? Everything's always changing. So I would hesitate to say never or always, but there isn't an intention, it isn't intended that that college be a transition plan, right? I mean,
Yeah, and you know, part of it is, it makes sense, Kelly, to say, okay, this would be a college within Roosevelt University. And we have, you know, CCPA, College of Performing Arts, we have Heller College of Business, we have College of Pharmacy, College of Arts and Sciences, and College of Education. And this is Robert Morris Experiential College. Now, again, it's up to those faculty and all collective faculty to say, okay, what would it look like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road? Because on the transition side, it makes sense to keep it as a freestanding unit, to manage this process, and then whatever makes sense in the future, allowing students to vote with their feet, and the faculty with your creativity on designing new academic programs. Frankly, we haven't even started down that path.
Right.
Okay?
But just like any other college, right? I mean, it's what you do.
Yeah.
All right, so the last question comes from Robert Morris University. The question is question to President Dali. How do you keep your default rate low? What is your vision for default rate after the merge?
Default rate regarding?
Our default rates are both pretty low, right?
On financial aid?
Yeah,
what are we talking about?
I think
rate?
that must be the question. Well, let's assume it's about financial aid. Right?
Okay. All right. Yes.
What's that? Oh, we think we know who's asking it. It does mean financial aid if it's coming from that person. So, yeah, so the default rate, meaning students who go into repayment of their loans after they have typically withdrawn. It could be graduated, but most students who enter default, of course, have withdrawn. So because there's that correlation, you guys know this, right, about not having that job because you didn't graduate and then going to default of your loans. So both of us have a decent rate on that. While we wish no one were in default. And really the number one way to manage that is, again, students who graduate and with degrees that are employed, that allow them to be employed right away, then go into default at a much lower rate. So the strides Roosevelt has made with that freshman retention is not only admirable, but key. Not that we never lose sophomores, juniors, or seniors, but we all know those rates. Help them find success that freshman year. They are on their way to a much greater extent. That's a huge step in the right direction. Robert Morris has historically had very low default rates. We do a lot of default management. And another thing that helps that, boy, I'm just going now. The associate degree also, because you have a credential, sometimes with certifications within that credential, allowing you to be employable immediately in a very short time period. And at that level, then normally you would have less loans because you've been in school less amount of time. Right. Most of those students come back and earn a bachelor's degree.
Okay. I know, in that regard, I'll mention this, that, I mentioned previously that we surround that one student with all of us, students, colleagues, peers, family members, to make sure she succeeds. All right? That success would be going to graduate school, okay, or landing a terrific career that we will help them. I would really like us to make movements towards that with our mentoring program and all the student success programs that we have in both universities, and the experiential college, that's why it's named that eventually Nicole and her team are able to put a big sign outside on Michigan Avenue that says, ask us what 100% is. Okay, just 100%. And we just have had a class that graduated, and 100% of our students either went successfully to graduate school or landed a terrific position in their discipline. Okay. Imagine parents who come in right after that and say, yeah, tell us about 100%. You know, Mike Cassidy doesn't even have to open his mouth, you know, but he does a great job when he does. He just says, hey, they're employed and or they're in graduate school. That's what it will be all about. And I think we can get there.
And this
working
integration is a huge step in that direction. Huge step. Yep.
We have time for at least 200 more questions. So,
Dr. J.
Professor J.
I felt like I have to say something.
Of course, you've been disappointing me, Dr. J.
I just wanted to thank everyone for having us here, and it is really a pleasure, and I think we can make it work. You know, I've been working at Robert Morris for what, 25 years, you know, and it's been great. And just putting both universities together, really, we can really put our strength together and make it excellent.
Yep.
So let's get motivated and let's really get it done. And I tell you what, you know, we are here to be one family.
Dr. J.
And let's get it done.
Will you let people know what you do for us at Robert Morris? We don't let you just sit
I'm
around
a medical
and motivate
doctor,
people.
actually. Dr. Noor, how are you? You know, I'm the division chair at the College of Nursing and Health Studies. So, and I'm a faculty also, and I teach all courses.
He visited Schaumburg campus this
Yeah,
week
yesterday it
and
was
got
great.
all
Oh,
excited.
you know, we have it all set. We're gonna make it work. We're gonna go ahead and have the pharmacy, the nursing, you know, we're going to make it work. So you guys get energized, okay? And let's make it work. That's it. So all that tightness, I don't know why. And I mean, we should not, you know, so.
I will also mention that, Nicole, now you have a new assistant on PR and marketing on the Schaumburg campus. Thank you for that.
Yes, thank you. And I heard nursing and pharmacy, so welcome. I'm from pharmacy.
Introduce yourself, Abby, please.
Yes, Abby Kahali, Board of Trustees, also College of Pharmacy. And I do appreciate the way that we're going through integration. I heard the question about, have you seen successful example out there? I've done for my graduate program, example that succeeded, example that didn't. I think one way does not succeed the integration if basically somebody on a platform making all the decision for everybody else.
Right.
What I've seen this morning from the task force, everybody has a voice, and in my opinion, that's the way to succeed. So when we have accreditation coming, and they're going to ask us, did you take part of that? And I think the answer should be yes. And if you haven't got a chance, please get involved. And welcome to my friends from nursing as well.
Okay. Well, there's work to be done, folks. So I think this is it. Are there any final questions we need to answer? Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Well, wait. Hold on for a microphone to come. Yes.
Just a quick question about VAs. So what is the VA program at Roosevelt? Is there one? And like, what is the enrollment numbers based on VAs? And things like that. So,
are you asking particularly the financial aid piece of it, or
just
veterans in general?
In general, like we have ROTC.
Okay.
At Robert Morris University, is that something that we hope to move over to Roosevelt University?
Roosevelt has it.
What is the enrollment? You know, we have a certain number body of students that are VAs for our school. What about Roosevelt University currently? Things like that.
Right. Okay. Mike. I'm going to hand him Mike Cassidy.
We do offer, we have many students who utilize veterans benefits to attend Roosevelt. We are eager and excited about welcoming ROTC to part of our portfolio, and we look to be additive to that with some of the students within our population. So I think this is, again, one of those great synergies between the two institutions where we can continue to provide even more benefits to our veterans to achieve their academic aspirations here at Roosevelt University.
I would add to that, we have the luxury of having an ROTC representative on our campus full-time, and back when that began, it was because of our Latino population. That's why our institution was selected for that. We have right now 34% Latinx, I think, population.
So finally, pending approval of HLC, I want to welcome all of our colleagues from Robert Morris University of Illinois to Roosevelt University.
Thank you.